Hello, good evening. I think you have watched a brief discussion of paper 1. So, now I am taking the discussion of paper 2, right. And here what I will do, I will deal the questions unit wise, right. And if you see from unit 1, this is socio-political philosophy, unit 1, only one question appeared in your examination, that is question number 1A, and that is on liberty. Actually, liberty or freedom can be explained in two ways: material explanation and spiritual explanation. So, in modern technological society, its material application can be realized, it is realizable, but as someone does its spiritual explanation, then it is under question. So, that is why the question is asked on liberty is realizable in modern technological society, right. If you see unit 2, that is on sovereignty, so two questions are appeared in your examination. First is, you can say, question number 1D, that is this an straightforward question that Boudin's theory has been asked, and you know that Boudin is the thinker who has introduced the concept of sovereignty in the 16th century. He is a French philosopher, so this is a straightforward question. But second question on sovereignty is question number 4B, that is an interesting question. Here globalization has been you can say compared with the sovereignty has been compared with globalization. And here if you see, sometimes international institutions, global institutions, they have certain conditions. So, sometimes it appears the conditions which are imposed by the global institutions, they affect the sovereignty of the state. But here you can say that although it appears that sometimes they dilute the sovereignty of a state, but you have to say that whatever are their conditions, that is necessity of the state. So, it does not affect, it does not dilute the sovereignty of the state, right. If you see from unit 3, that is individual state and rights and duties, one question appeared in your examination. This question number 2C, and here this question is asked regarding Indian tradition. That actually if you see, sometimes in Indian tradition discriminations are there, and sometimes there are negative discriminations regarding a particular class of the society, regarding women of the society. So, sometimes it appears that it is against the human rights. That is why reforms are needed, are demanded in Indian society, and so that is why in this frame you have to write. From unit 4, that is forms of government, only one question appeared, that is question number 1B, that is regarding liberal democracy and minorities. You know that in liberal democracy, the rights of minorities are protected with some, you can say, privileges and scholarships, and some incentives are given to them, some protections are given to them. So, that way you have to mention that regarding the programs and schemes which are run by the government under the liberal democracy, they are for the safety of the minorities. Then from unit 5, two questions are there, that is political ideologies. One very current question has been asked regarding the prevailing pandemic and anarchism. If you see that in present pandemic, the question is, I'll read the question, then you will understand. Do you think that the prevailing pandemic will lead to anarchism in society? Discuss. Here you have to examine the role of the state. If the role of the state regarding the present pandemic is positive, state has taken certain measures, certain efforts, the role of state is positive, then it will not lead the society in the direction of anarchism. But if the role of the state is quite negative, or you can say neutral, state has left the individuals on their own, state is not taking any step to give certain facilities to the citizens, then only this pandemic can lead the society to anarchism. Because individuals will think that if state is not playing any role, any positive role, then what is the role of the state? So, removal of the state, and so the anarchism may appear. Right, and one more question is there from unit 5, that is question number 2b regarding Marxism as a philosophical doctrine, its relevance. Here you can say that once again we can see the rise of you can say to protect the weaker section of the society, or you can say that on certain grounds this entire market system has been challenged, has been questioned. This open market economy has been challenged because it is increasing the discriminations in the society, disparities in the society, and if disparities are there, then exploitations are obvious. So, as a philosophical doctrine you can say that the philosophy of Marx is relevant even today, because what he said that he talks about the equality in the society, a classless society, a stateless society, exploitationless society. So, that way you have to mention regarding, although in the past we have experienced the downfall of Marxism, but once again we can see the relevance as the you can say the increasing tendency of exploitation and disparities in the society. From unit 6, two questions are appeared. One is on secularism, that is complete separation of religion and the state. You can say that classically this is yes, because this thought has been established in 19th century in England, separation of state and the church, but practically not. Why I am saying practically not? Because you know that in present society we can see diversity is there. In one society, followers of many religions are there. So, certain steps are needed for the minority class, for who are not giving proper opportunity to develop themselves in the society. So, you can say that although classically it is complete separation of state and the religion, but practically you can say that state has to take certain positive steps for certain religious classes as well. And one more question is there from unit 6, that is question number 3b, that is on multiculturalism. You can say that first you have to define the multiculturalism, and then you have to mention that oneness is oneness with manyness. This kind of structure should be there. You can say that unity without uniformity and disparity, diversity without fragmentation. So, this kind of multiculturalism or this kind of structure should be developed in the society, and then only it can make the nation multicultural. Right. Now, unit 7, 2 questions are there. One is question number 3C, that is on theory of punishment. The question is retributive theory and human rights. Is it against the human rights? Actually, why this question has been asked? When you see the retributive theory, same kind of punishment or torture is given to the criminal. So, sometimes it appears that retributive theory is against the human rights, because it follows the philosophy of eyes for eyes, teeth for teeth, and this is deontological. Anything that is right and has to be done without considering the consequences. But you do not have to support this, because the process of punishment is definitely based on ethics. State gives the punishment. Certain institutions work behind the punishment. So, outrightly you cannot say that this is a violation of human rights or against the human rights, because if state, ethics and institutions are working behind the theory of punishment, then it cannot be said as, you can say, against the human rights. And one more question is there from unit 7, that is question number 4C. Simple question, this is that corruption and nation state. Actually, sometimes if you see, corruption becomes the part of the political system and the society as well. So, sometimes you can see that the corruption becomes the part of the political system, the part of the society as well. So, that is why this question has been asked, that how far do the social and political regimes conditions, means it appears that the political system and the social system are conditioning the corruption in the society and the entire system. Sometimes it appears, not in all the societies or not in all the political systems. Right. Now, no straightforward question is from unit 8, but unit 9, one question is there, that is question number 4A. This is a simple question, that women empowerment and gender discrimination. Women empowerment, you have to say that definitely it will reduce the practice of gender discrimination. But for the elimination of gender discrimination, what is needed? We have to change the mindset of the society. Unless and until the social mindset has not been changed, the gender discrimination cannot be eliminated. Right. And then from unit 10, 2 questions are there. One is from Gandhi, that is question number 2A, and Gandhian concept of social development. Here you have to mention about decentralization, that is the basic philosophy of Gandhi, and the development from bottom to top, and circular model of administration. All these things you have to mention, and that is why Gandhi talks about self-reliance village, and that is why decentralization and bottom to top. And one more question from unit 10, that is on Ambedkar, that is question number 3A, And here you have to mention the role of Ambedkar in the different dimensions of the society. You can see that he has done a lot for the deprived section of the society. He has participated in certain religious movement, and he was you can say exactly a reformer. He has done his reformative work in all walks of social life, either it is caste or religion or right. So that way you can see that the question has been asked in a socio-political section, right. Now section B, that is philosophy of religion part. Here what I always do, I divide the entire syllabus in 3 basic problems: metaphysical problems, epistemological problems, and practical problems. If you see unit 1, 2, 3, 4 of your syllabus, means units which are related to God, 2 units, and problem of evil and immortality, that I will say that metaphysical problems. Unit 5, 6 and 10 epistemological problems, and 7, 8, 9 are from, or you can say practical problems. So here I will take problem wise. If you see metaphysical problems, I will say that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 questions are asked from. You know that metaphysical problem is most important. So 7 questions are asked from metaphysical problems. First question that is from metaphysical problem, question number 5b, that is a straightforward question: immortality and religion. You know that here whenever you attempt this type of question, immortality and religion, soul and religion, always you have to address the Buddhism, the philosophy of Buddhism as an exception, because Buddhism does not accept immortality of the soul or concept of metaphysical soul, but Buddhism has been recognized as a religion. So after mentioning the necessity of immortality, because immortality, without immortality rebirth cannot be explained, without rebirth liberation cannot be explained, without all these things transcendental feature of the religion cannot be explained. So after mentioning all these things, you have to mention the exception of Buddhism as well. Next metaphysical question is question number 5d. It is, this is also a simple question, that freedom of will and omnipotent God. If God is omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent, so how the freedom of will can be accepted? The problem has been addressed, and then efforts have been made to solve the problems by the religious people. They say that human freedom of will does not affect with the omnipotent and omniscient God. Next metaphysical problem based question is question number 6a, simple straightforward question. This is sentential and ontological argument. Is it logical? You have to say that this is a formal deductive argument. Then 6b is also based on metaphysical problem, the problem of evil, and mainly you have to address the problem here, because the question is what is the logical problem of evil, means you have to mention the problem, that what is the logical nature of the problem. Then next metaphysical question is question number 7a. This is on Vishishtadvaita and Hinduism and God. You know that Ramanuja's thoughts are known as best example of theism, and theism has been accepted in Hinduism, so you have to mention in that way, that qualified God and this is qualified non-dualism is there, right. So simply I have to mention the nature of the God, and here what I will tell you, that whatever good features are coming in your mind for the God, you have to write that God is omniscient, omnipresent, omnipotent, creator, nourisher, destroyer, producer of the outcome of the action, and all these gunas what are there, along with 6 perfections which are accepted in Nyaya school. 2 are added by Ramanuj, Satsankalpatva, Apahat Papmatva, all these you have to mention here. One more metaphysical problem based question, that is question number 7b. Here the question is on prayer and worship. You know that supremacy of the God has been accepted in both. But what is the difference? You can say that when you do the prayer, when you pray to the God, it means you want to achieve something, you want to get something, then only you pray. When you do the worship of the God, you can say that you think that God is omnipotent, almighty, God controls everything, so you do the worship of the God. And since you do the worship of the God, then only you can say that you pray to the God. So behind prayer, certain demand is there, motive is there, you want to get something from the divine end. So that way you have to mention. But the supremacy of the God is accepted in both, when either you pray to the God or you do the worship of the God. Then one more question is there, that is based on metaphysical problem, that is question number 8c, and this is a straightforward question on liberation, that knowledge, action and devotion as path of liberation. Traditionally they are accepted as 3 basic path of liberation, although 4th path has also been accepted as Yoga Marga, but traditionally they are accepted as the path of liberation: Jnana Marga, Bhakti Marga and Karma Marga. Right. Now I am coming on epistemological problem based question. They are mainly from unit 5, 6 and 10, and only 2 questions are there. 2 questions are, which are the 2 questions? You can say question number 7c, straightforward. This is faith and belief. So you have to mention about the faith, and then you have to make a distinction between faith and belief. Belief is you can say changeable, faith is not changeable. You can also write about belief in, believe that, cognitive use of faith, non-cognitive use of faith, right. Some sort of you can say possibility of argument is there in belief. Belief must have the propositional support, faith does not have this. So all these things you have to mention. No? Then question number 8a is also one epistemological question. I will say that is on religious language and its cognitivity. Here you have to mention about John Hick and Crombie and these types of thinkers you have to mention, and you can also mention the Basil Michel, who has also said that religious language is cognitive. And then you have to mention the criticism as well. Now see the practical problem based question. You can say that unit number 7, 8 and 9, you can say that religion without God and religion and morality, religious pluralism and absolute truth. So I think 5 questions are appear from practical problems. First you can say that question number 5a is there, that means significance of religion in modern can say present scientific and technological development, you can say that outrightly you cannot deny the role of religion. Only misuse of religion can be challenged and that can be rectified by the present scientific and technological development, right. So, you do not have to mention that there is no significance of religion. Religion is significant. So far it is not irrational, illogical, so far it focuses on its etymological meaning, you can say relegate, to connect man with man, to connect man with divine, all these positive senses are there, but as it works, you can say as it goes in a destructive direction, so it can be challenged. Next practical problem based question is 5C. This is, you can say that history of religion is the history of conflicts. You know that maximum struggle in human history took place on the basis of religion. That is why you can say that efforts are on to, you can say, to stop all these things, and religious tolerance and secularism, all these Sarva Dharma Sambhav and all these, right. Next practical based question is 5E. This is 5E, that is you can say multicultural society and religious tolerance. You know that as cultural diversity, so cultural conflicts, religious diversity, religious conflicts. As you can see that regarding cultural diversity, salad bowl concept is there, cultural mosaic is there. Here regarding religious diversity, religious struggles, you can talk about the religious tolerance and what are the ground to justify the religious tolerance, what is the meaning of religious tolerance, all these, right. Now one more practical problem based question, that is question number 6C, that is you know that concept of God as a prerequisite of for a religion. This is religion without God. You know that religion without God is actually a contradiction, although a few religions appear which are without God, but after analysis we come to know that they are not completely God or transcendental realities or spiritual realities, either they are Jainism or Buddhism or any other religion, right. And next question from practical problem, this is question number 8B, that is religious beliefs and moral behavior, are they compatible or incompatible? You have to say that religion never teaches immorality, and sometimes since religion and religious texts are translated by explained by the human beings, so they might explain this and justify something that is immoral, but classically it cannot be mentioned. No religion ever teaches immorality, right. So, what you can say that religion and morality is always taught by the religion, immorality is never taught by any religion. So, in this frame you have to write that. That is why it is said that it is necessary to be moral if you are religious, but it is not necessary to be religious if you are moral. Religion without morality is not possible, morality without religion is possible. So, after this analysis you might have come to know that this paper is also, paper 2 was also not difficult at all. So many straightforward questions, a few typical questions are there, but after seeing and analyzing the question paper, what I can say that if someone has done his preparation in the right way, in the right direction, then he might have appeared all the questions in good way, right. So, this is a only brief introduction of the paper, brief discussion of the paper. Later on, as I have told you that I will take the detailed discussion of both the papers. So, this is thank you from this end, and if you have watched the discussion, then I think you will get some benefit of this as well.